Hello everyone, I'm Alex at Vending Machine Support. In this video, I'm going to show you how to vend the very popular narrow 12-ounce can from the narrow column found in a Dixie Narco 501E, 276E, and 600E drink vending machine. So let's get started. With new drinks entering the marketplace on almost a daily basis, the narrow 12-ounce can, such as this product here, that bears the same name as the most widely used unit of temperature, has become a very popular package type. Now the narrow 12-ounce can, unlike its older cousin, the 12-ounce can, actually has a different shape. As you can see, we've got a taller and narrower can than a standard 12-ounce can. Now the narrowness of these narrow 12-ounce cans is going to be around about 2 1/8 of an inch across, and in height we're about 6 1/8 inches across. And marketing researchers have found that if you put a product into a can that looks like this, it is going to be more healthier for you than cans that look like this. So if you're wanting to vend these narrow 12-ounce cans, I'm going to show you how to set your narrow column on your Dixie Narco 501E, 276E, or 600E drink vending machine. Now I'm going to do this in column number 5 inside this 501E behind me here. But first, let me show you what you're going to need for one particular selection to be able to vend these 12-ounce narrow cans. The parts you're going to need to be able to convert a narrow column to vend the narrow 12-ounce cans in an E Series drink vending machine are almost going to follow hand in hand with what you need to be able to vend regular size 12-ounce cans. Now I have a video that talks about how to convert a drink machine, E Series drink vending machine, to vend 12-ounce cans, and I'll link above. I'm also going to put part numbers for the parts I'm about to show you here in the description below, so be sure to check that out. Now the first thing we want is we want to make sure we have a 12-ounce can shim. Now this shim is going to go into the column right next to the rotor, and the importance for this shim is that we want to have this little piece, this ridge here, that allows to hold that second can in place while the front can is being vended. This prevents the double vend. So that's going to be a 12-ounce can shim. Now the next part we're going to need is going to be two parts, matter of fact, of the same thing, which is going to be the rod and spring. Now when we vend regular 12-ounce cans, we're just using one rod. We're going to need to have both of these rods, as well as two parts that are going to go onto these rods and springs. So we need two rod and springs. And the next part we're going to need is going to be tubes or lifters. So we've got a white lifter tube, and we've got a red lifter tube. Now it may be hard to find the red ones. They're now replaced with yellow ones, so it can be a yellow lifter tube. But these are going to be roughly 1/8 of an inch across, thickness there on the white tube, and 7/16 across on the red tube. Now the yellow one is roughly going to be the same thing. We use a lot of these when we're doing 16.9 ounce bottles. So we're going to need both of these, one white and one red lifter tube. Now these are going to be placed actually onto the rods and springs. So we'll simply do this one, and we'll slide this one in here. And what this is going to do is this is just going to basically extend or make the rods fatter for the narrowness of that narrow 12-ounce can. Now, once you have these parts in place, you are going to have to put them into the cradle. So let me explain to you how to put these rods into the cradle. I'm going to do it with the cradle outside the machine to show you the demonstration, as well as putting it actually inside the machine. It's a lot easier to shoot the video of me putting these into the cradle with the cradle outside the machine. So here we have a typical cradle. I'm going to put these up here. Hope they don't roll away. Okay. So here we've got your standard cradle that sits inside the machine. So what you'll be looking at this is you're going to see it from this perspective. Now the motor attaches to this side, and this is the side that goes into the back of the machine. So as the products are vended, this will rotate around and drop the products. So if we look closely, we actually have these three holes here, and I've labeled them A, B, and C. And that's to know what holes we need to put the rods and springs in. Now, we're going to be using both the A hole and the B hole, excuse my language. So with the white lifter, rod and spring lifter, we're going to be putting this into hole B, which is going to be this piece here, hole B. So to do that, we need to place the spring in the back part of the cradle. So this is the back part of the cradle here. And we have the spring in there, and I'm just going to push. And then here, I'm going to lock the tip into the B here. There we go. So this is now in place. So we've got it set into the hole B, and that is the white lifter on the rod and spring. Now the next one, we're going to be doing the red one. Again, if you can't find the red one, the yellow ones will work just as well. And we're going to be putting these into hole A over here. And this is the hole that's closest to the edge. Now yours won't be labeled like this, but it's always going to be the hole that is closest to the edge here. So just like before, I'm going to go ahead and put this spring into the rear, like this. Of course, I've never done it at this angle, so it makes it a lot more difficult. And snap this in place. Then here, I've got this in place. So we've got the white one into the second hole, or the hole B, and then we got the top one here into hole A, just like this. And these are how we're going to get the rods on, and they need to be placed in there to bend these narrow 12-ounce cans. So with that, let me show you how to actually go about doing this. Now I'm going to do this into column number 5. This column I think was originally set for a 20-ounce bottle of Gatorade. So I'm going to show you how to, again, adjust the back spacer and how to set the timing cam. And of course, we're going to put the rod and springs into the cradle, as well as the 12-ounce Can Shim. So let's get that started. Let's go ahead and move this stuff out of the way. Take these 2 cans down here. And I'm going to go ahead and start opening this up. Now I've got the compressor and the evaporator fan unplugged in this machine just to reduce the sound. The buzzing or humming sound that you hear is actually coming from the transformer on the machine. So I do have the machine still turned on, but the best thing to do is, because we're going to be moving the cradle, it's best to go ahead and disconnect power. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the power here from the control board. So now I no longer have power getting to the motor, so they won't start running prematurely. Go ahead and remove my cover. And then here we've got our Vend motors. We've got column number 1, and then it goes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm going to be doing this in column number 5 in the middle, because it's a lot easier to video. We're going to try to get a shot of it coming underneath. So the first thing we're going to do here is we need to open the cradle. So I need to open the cradle up so that I can pull the old shim out. This one's currently got a bottle shim in it. Now here's the number 5 motor, and I'm going to go ahead and open the cradle up. And there's a couple of different ways of doing this, but I've always done it by manually turning the motor. Now I do have the power removed from the machine, so I don't have to worry about this motor running prematurely. So if you're going to do this, make sure you do remove power from the machine, or at least you can remove one of these plugs here at the top of the motor. So what the first thing to do here is we have a brake, and this is the brake right here. And we're going to need to lift up on this brake, as well as push down on our home switch, which is located right here. So I'm going to pull this out of the notch on the brown timing cam. So I'm going to press down. Usually I do my ring finger, and I push down on the notch, and then I push up on the brake, and then I can spin the armature. But this motor is actually quite free, so I can just simply turn it. And if I lift up on the brake, now I can turn it back and forth. So I've got it in a state where the cradle is now open, so I can reach in here and pull the shim completely out. And with the shim completely out, I can go ahead and put in the 12-ounce Can Shim. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to need to adjust the timing cam. So to vend these correctly, we need to put the setting here onto hole number 3. Now there are several little holes along the perimeter of the brown timing cam here. Matter of fact, they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, and there's actually a little plastic divot or a little tick that is coming through one of the holes. So we're going to need to rotate this to hole number 3. Again, they go 1, 2, 3, 5, 4. So I'm going to press down on the timing cam or the motor switch and pull that out. And I'm going to use this little handle here to bend this portion up and then rotate this around to get it into hole number 3. So I've got it here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you can see the little plastic tick is sticking through hole number 3. So that's what we're going to want to make sure that we have the timing cam set to be able to vend these narrow 12-ounce cans correctly. We're going to put the timing cam into hole number 3. So here we've got the underside of the cradle. I got the cradle opened up, and I'm going to go ahead and put the rod and springs in. So we're going to look here. First, we need to locate the 3 holes in the back here. So we've got these 3 holes, which are A, B, C, going from left to right or clockwise. So we're going to start with the white lifter tube. We're going to put that into hole B. So I'm going to take our spring, we'll make sure the spring always goes to the rear, and I've got the white lifter on the rod and spring. So I'm going to go ahead and locate that into the hole B, push in there, and I'm going to look underneath here and latch it into the center hole from the front side. So I usually like to do is I stick my head in here, and just like that. So now you can see I've got the white lifter. And the next one, we're going to be putting it into hole A, which is always closest to the edge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rod and spring, put the red lifter on it. So here we've got the spring that's going to be going into the rear, and I've got the red lifter. Now again, if you don't have a red lifter, the yellow ones work just as well. I'm going to go ahead and locate the hole A like that. And then here, I got it kind of leaned in. I'm going to go ahead and stick my head in here and see if I can find the latch right there, and there we go. So now I've got the red lifter into the hole A. So we've got the red one in hole A and the white one in hole B. We got the timing cam set correctly as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the back spacer. So every column has a spacer, and this is this metal piece right here in the back, that is used to prevent the products from walking away from the sold-out flap, which sits right here. So it's a little paddle that the products will push down on, which lifts the paddle off of this little micro switch, which lets the computer board know there's product in here. So if I was to, right now it's set for 20-ounce bottles, so if I was to put these 2 narrow 12-ounce cans in here, on top of the cradle like that, you'll see that if I push them all the way back, they're not pushing down on the sold-out flap. So I'll once reach back in, and then here the products are lifting the sold-out flap off of the switch, but you can see how much of a gap I have here. I can get my I get my entire fist in here. So what I always like to have is when I adjust the back spacer, I always want to have about a 1/4 of an inch gap behind the rear can and the back spacer, the rear product and the back spacer. And if you can't get a ruler or a measuring tape back there, you can always use the thickness of your index finger. So if you can get your index finger in between the can and that back spacer, then that's going to be ideal. We're going to allow the products to be able to move back and forth, but not move far enough to bring this spacer or the paddle back down onto the sold-out switch. So I have found that adjusting this back spacer for the narrow 12-ounce cans of this height and this diameter, mainly for the height, which is going to be 6 1/8 of an inch tall product times 2, that we're going to need to bring the back spacer to hole number 8. Now hole number 8, on the left and right hand sides here are some holes that we can actually set that back spacer into. And there are index holes. The index holes are always placed 3 holes at a time. So we can go 3, 6, 9, and then come forward 1 hole. And the index holes here on the left and right hand side at the bottom and at the top. So we're going to set that back spacer to hole number 8 for the narrow 12-ounce cans. I'm going to go ahead and pull these products out, set them aside so I can get in there and adjust the back spacer. So these back spacers can be a bit difficult. I've got somewhat skinny arms, so I'm able to reach in there. Now if you've got thick forearms, it may be quite difficult to do this. You might want to find someone to help you, somebody with a little bit narrow arms. So I'm going to reach in and I'm going to grab that back spacer. What I'll do is I'll grab it on the right side and I push over and I twist it, and that way I can get the pins that are located right about there, the pins off of the wall, and move it and then slide it up and get the left side pins into hole 8, and then I will pop the right side pins back in. These pins are spring loaded. So I'm going to reach in, I'm going to grab that in the center, I'm going to push over to the left, and here I've got it removed. and I'm just going to go ahead and bring it forward, and then I'm going to count my holes. Now I'm working around the camera while I do this, so that's why it takes a little bit longer. And I'm going to go ahead and reach in here, and I'm going to set the left side one into hole number 8. So there's 3, 6, 9, come down 1. Seriously, trying to do this with the same angle with the camera is not fun. All right, there we go. So that's in. I'll roughly set the top. And I'm gonna go ahead and set the bottom in there. Come around to the other side of the camera. And I'm gonna set this one into hole number 8. Like that. Get the top here. Set the top correctly. This is probably the most difficult part, is getting this all set correctly. That's that. All right, and to get that one on the 8 one over there. So I've got 3, 6, 3, 6, it's on 8. I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna set this one correctly, stick my head in the way. Okay, there we go. So now I've got that back spacer pulled forward and set into hole number 8. And so I'm going to show you when we put the cans in there too deep, we're going to be able to keep this lifted but still have enough space so the cans can rock back and forth and not be too tight. So let's slide the first can in like so, and put the next can in. Now you can see that the paddle's been lifted off of the switch. And we've got plenty of room to work the cans with enough room here to get my finger back behind the can so they can shift back and forth and not drop the paddle onto the sold out switch. So setting hole number 8 is where I found to be the best location for these narrow 12-ounce cans. So let's go ahead and make a few test vends. Now that we've got our shim in place, we've got our 12-ounce can shim in place, we've got our rod and spring and the red and white lifter in place. So we got the red lifter into hole A and the white lifter into hole B. Again, if you can't find the red lifter, the yellow one works just as well. I call them lifters, they're also known as tubes. And we've set the timing cam, the brown timing cam on the narrow column to hole number 3 or setting 3. And lastly, we've adjusted the back spacer to hole number 8. So let me go ahead and load some cans. I got about 8 cans here, and I'll place the machine into a test vend mode. So get these loaded up. So I got the 12-ounce cans loaded. Again, these are 12-ounce narrow cans loaded. We're going to go ahead and make a test vend. Now, since I removed power from the control board so the motors wouldn't move prematurely, I'm going to need to go ahead and reapply power to the control board. And that can be done through these 2 plugs here. Reconnect those. Board's going to power up. Now, since if you move your timing cam and your home switch is not in a notch, this means that when you press the blue service mode on the control board, it's going to say a JC-X, where X represents the motor that it believes is jammed. Now currently, since my home switch is not in a notch here on the brown timing cam, I'm going to get an error of JC-5, which means jam column 5, which is obvious because, again, my home switch is not, or my motor switch is not in its home position. So I'm going to go ahead and press the blue service mode button, which can be found on the back of the control board. I'm going to press this one time. And I should have the JC error on the front display, and there we have JC-5. Now, keep in mind, the way I've always kind of worked this is that you do not, while you're test vending, you do not want to close the inner door on the main door. So I've always kind of worked a way where I just put my pinky and my ring finger and I put like this, and I keep the door separated so I can hit here and press the buttons, but I'm still keeping these 2 doors separated like this. I had this a lot of time with customers on the phone, and I'm helping them, and I tell them keep the door separated, and they just think they can just keep it like this, but before they know it, they've pressed the door in, because we do not want this door to press in on this door, because it will take the machine back out of service mode, and you have to start all over again when it comes to programming. So with the JC-5, I'm going to press and hold the number 1 selection button. We have a JC-4 here. I understand that, but I'm going to press 1, and we're going to get homing on the screen, and here it's going to home all the motors until we have HD on the display. I'm going going to press and hold selection buttons 1 and 2 together at the same time until we get to DIAG, which is short for diagnostics. So I press these 2 buttons in. I'm going to cycle all the way to DIAG. Here we have DIAG. I'm going to press and hold the selection button 1 to enter diagnostics. And then here I'm going to have SE. Now I'm going to navigate to MT-1. That's motor test-1. Press and hold selection buttons 1 and 2 until we get to the motor test-1. And 1 represents motor number 1. Since we're vending things, we put all these narrow 12-ounce cans into column number 5. That is motor number 5. So I press the number 1 selection button until I get to MT-5. There we are. And then here, if I wanted to activate or vend it, I would press selection button 2. So I'm going to go ahead and step over here, and we're going to vend a can. So I'm going to press selection button 2. It's going to activate the number 5 motor. And when it does, I need to swoop in there and catch the can so it doesn't bust on the floor. So go ahead and start that. So we got the motor is turning. I'm going to go ahead and catch the first can here. As it comes around, it's going to load up its cradle. Actually, it's going to load its cradle up. Okay. So now that the cans have loaded the cradle, which I mistakenly made a mistake, I didn't prime it. Now the products are in the cradle, the next vend, it will drop a can. So I'm going to press the number 2 selection button again. And catch the cans. And there we have our 1 single narrow 12-ounce can. And if I do this again, I'm going to press the number 2 selection button, and it should drop the rear can that's loaded in the cradle. That is can number 2. Now it's going to come back around and collect the next 2 cans, loads the cradle. And then here I'm going to go ahead and press the number 2 selection button again. Get ready to catch the can. That's the second can, or the first can, front can, and now we're going to do the rear can, like so. Everything seems to be good. The products are loading into the cradle correctly. No jams. Go ahead and vend. This is going to go to on our 3rd cycle. All right. There's that. Now I want to get the rear can. Come back around. Now again, last 2 cans are loaded in the cradle, and our sold out flap is now lifted up because there's no more cans above it. I'm going to go ahead and empty out this column completely. So I'll press the number 2 selection button again. Motor's going to rotate. I'm going to wait for that front can to vend. Which we have there. And one last time, we're going to go ahead and get the rear can now. And there we've got all 8 cans vended, narrow 12-ounce can vended, from the narrow column on your Dixie Narco 501E, 276E, or 600E drink vending machine. Now, if you found this video useful, I appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified next time I upload a video. As well, be sure to check the description below for any affiliate links I might have that'll help support the channel at no extra cost to you. Until then, I'll see you on the next video. Take care.